And thank you all for coming this evening. I just want to say a few words about the exhibit. That's what uh, I was asked to do. So the exhibit is about these 8 days in 1804 when Lewis and Clark. Is that better? Okay, cool. The 8 days in 1804 when Lewis and Clark came up the Missouri River through what's called what we are calling Titonwanian Territory, Teton Territory, and that's basically around Pierre, South Dakota now, today. Pierre wasn't there, of course, and just after going through the Big Bend, maybe 40 miles upriver from there, it was on the 23rd of September. And so the 23rd of September until the 30th of September, 1804, they were interacting with Lakotans. And then they continued on and then interacted with Arikaras and then Mandans. So this exhibit is about those 8 days. For each day, we have 4 narratives, and the narratives are by William Clark, uh, John Ordway, Patrick Gass, and Joseph Whitehouse. Those are the only narratives we have of what went on, and those were all men on those boats. We don't have any viewpoint from the shore, from the Lakotans on the shore about what's going on. You all can look at all those journal entries. There's not very many of them. You can do all that online, and you can be as expert as any historian. So it's easy to do. And what we did as the curators for each of those days, we invited 4 visual artists, 2 Lakotans and 2 non-Lakotans. And then for each day, we also invited 2 poets, a Lakotan poet and a non-Lakotan poet. And then for each day, we also invited 2 musicians or musical groups. And again, 1 Lakotan, 1 non-Lakotan. This was interactions between 2 nations, the United States of America and Lakotans. And so that's how we organized the exhibit. And this afternoon, we'll have 4 poets reading the pieces they created for the exhibit. They also have extra time. They can read a poem or 2 more than that. Yeah, so we'll start then with the first day, the 23rd of September, 1804. Coincidentally, or not, at 12:48 that morning, so 12:48 a.m. was the equinox. And so I love that this first interaction is when everything's in the balance. And on that day, the expedition, towards the evening, they seen 4 Lakotan boys on the south shore of the river, and they decided to stop for the night on the north shore of the river. They didn't greet those boys. They stayed away from them. 3 of those boys swam the river and visited with the expedition, the boatmen. So that's what the key things were that happened on that day. And a poet who wrote one of the poems for that day is Joyce Jefferson. And I'll turn it over to Joyce.
Thank you. York's Stripes. 23 September, Sunday, clock A. Days and nights equal. Set out early under a gentle breeze from the southeast. Captain Lewis went out to hunt on the island. A great number of buffalo in sight. I must seal up these scripts and draw from my journal some other time. 23 September, Sunday. Not like any other day. Master Clerk A writes the facts quickly. I laugh. Days and nights equal? A first for me. Born a slave, yet on this journey I am free. I am day. I am night. I am equal. I vote with others. They carry no burdens. No wives infiltrate their lives. Yet I carry my dreams of the love of my life to return to Kentucky, free to reunite with my wife. I make decisions. I even carry a gun. A man am I, no slave. Clock B. We observed a great smoke to the southwest, which is an Indian signal of their having discovered us. The river is wide, straight, and contains a great number of sandbars. Master Clock B. The new Corps of Discovery on mission to gather new lands to greet Western tribes with guns and knives in our hands. We come in peace to Titonwan and Teton tribes. With a simple declaration, they are now a part of these United States. Good. They see us before we see them. Clock C. 3 Sioux boys came to us. They swam the river and informed that the band of Sioux called the Teton of 80 lodges were camped at the next creek above, and 60 lodges more a short distance above. We gave those boys 2 carrots of tobacco to carry to their chiefs, with directions to tell them that we would speak on the morrow. Captain Lewis walked on the shore this evening. Reuben Fields killed a doe goat. Master Clock C. Days and nights equal. 3 Sioux boys, they came to see. They came to tell. They look at me curiously. I connect with them. But Master Clock, he speaks. Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we speak on the morrow. On this journey, I am free. I am day. I am night. I am equal. Will my equality prevail? Will my dreams ring true? Make my own decisions? This decision I cannot make. Reign free after this sojourn, or remain enslaved and forlorn. I have been given the opportunity to read more poems, and I do lots of self-reflection, and I think I've grown in all of these years on this earth. Joy. I make a joyful noise unto the Lord. Sometimes it can be mistaken for singing. When I was younger, I wanted to sing with the angels, notes clear and strong and light. Now I'm older. I sing with the angels, notes airy, needing angels' wings to take flight. So I came here courtesy of my Uncle Sam. And my husband and I came from Hawaii on the coldest day of the year from Hawaii. I said Hawaii, didn't I? Yes, it was quite a shock. And the brochure said, South Dakota, of all places. Well, in all of those years that I have been here, I have grown warm to South Dakota. One of my first poems I call Black and Other Friends. When we met, Sandra said, she wanted to meet some other Black folk. She was Black from down home, a real soul sister of mine. She didn't know that I'd been passing all this time. I'd searched for my ethnicity through literature and history, studying Black bards and their rhyme, internalizing their Blackness by osmosis, because I was passing all this time. I married into my Blackness quite naturally, a man with an authentic family tree, roots traced back to the Isle of Haiti. Yes, Toussaint was his great great granddaddy. I get my culture through our intimacy. You see, I was passing all this time. I'd lived my life on the peripheral, examining, analyzing, groping for my identity. I just wasn't Black enough for me. My speech was almost lily white. My attitudes, white, Anglo Saxon, Protestant indeed. My goals, a baseball team, an apple pie franchise, and a Mercedes Benz in burgundy and cream. I was looking for the finer things of the American dream. You know, I needed to pass all this time. Sharon became my friend, part Black, part white, light exterior. Well, she was Black to me. I could introduce her to my other friend. Sandra wanted to meet some other Black folk, you see. But I'm not Black, Sharon, you retorted. Well, I consider myself other. You know, when you get those applications and they want to know what race you are, I always check other. Well, I'll introduce you to my Black and other friends, I embarrassingly retorted. Her words were the true refraction of my identity. I wasn't passing all this time. I found my ethnicity. I could live on the periphery. So I might be Black superficially with white Anglo Saxon goals and attitudes. My Black exterior is enough for me. I need not pass anymore to be me. South Dakota has really been good to me. As a matter of fact, I learned a lot of history about African Americans while I was here. And it seemed like I even got a career telling stories about the African Americans who lived here. I crashed the Oscar Michaud Film Festival, and over the course of years, I've had the opportunity to be exposed to more people. One day I opened up an email and it said, I can't remember what it said. This is for my daughter, not spam. And she was looking for someone from South Dakota to find out about her because she was a biracial child. And in this part of Illinois, there were no people who looked like her, or not very many. So I was really moved by this young girl, and her name was Lyric. Little did I know you would light up my life, remembering times gone by, inspiring new delights, calling on the divine. And since you can't see it, it's an acrostic poem with Lyric as the first letter of each line. And then I got on a bend, and she asked me, how did I get to where I was? And I had to say it was simply opportunity. And I'm going to find it pretty soon. It is another acrostic poem. Someone asked me to, so I said yes. Maybe I wasn't ready, so I prayed, played, planned, prepared, and practiced. Limp or lofty goals, you might say, but yes is what I said. Say yes to opportunity. Opportunities knock when people are not looking for them. Perhaps the opportunity is not clear, or the opportunity seems not to exist. Revise that idea, call upon the Lord, take a beat. It'll come back to you. Now, that's simply how my career found me. I said yes. Thank the Lord. Yes, is what I said. And I had one more poem to read, but I think I'm almost at my time because I was inspired when I crashed the Oscar Michaud Film Festival to have met the, what do you call the person who makes the thing? Creator of York's Stripes. This is a bust, and if you can see, the front of my dress, I have York on the front, and I have York's stripes on the back. And I think probably in the 1980s, 90s was when Porter Williams began to craft sculptures of African American history. And he is here tonight. And he has provided this bust of York so that I could show you just a little bit more of African American history. Um, Porter, can you stand up so people can see you? He cannot stand up. Thank you very much, Porter. Thank you, Zach Van Harris, for making sure that this got here all in one piece. And he's a miracle worker. I told him on Monday that I needed this dress by today. And don't I look good? Thank you very much.
Okay, excellent. So that was on the Joyce Jefferson, and her poem she'd written was for the first day, the 23rd of September. And the second poet is Lanniko Lee, and she had the the second day of the exhibit, which was the 24th of September. Did I just mess that up? Did I say the numbers right? Okay, good. So Lanniko, please come and bail me out here. All right.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? My poem is called A Day in the Almanac of Losses. Monday, the 24th of September, 1804, was a morning when Lakota women gathered water from the shimmering Minnesota, lapping at their sun-bronzed ankles. Overhead, cottonwoods chattered among themselves. Gossip floated up from the busy throng below. Little story gems like skipjacks surfaced, sent hoots and hoo-hee, followed by streams of laughter. Wrinkled, buried currants and eavesdropping cottonwoods leaned into the tantalizing breeze. It was a morning ripe for history-making in this place and time. Downriver, Buffalo Medicine and a few of his men stood watching and listening to the approaching pirogues of new intruders into Titonwan Territory. The men on board waved to those on shore. The multitude of beings who made their homes on the Minnesota, the standing plant nations, Magpie and his relatives of the native winged nations, the lazy rolling carp and water nations, ground dwellers, big and small, of wrigglers and slitherers, and those unknown of the underworld. All were witnesses under the September sun, where paper thieves of Clark, Gass, Ordway, and Whitehouse recorded their versions of this day. The indigenous witnesses saw that 2 elk and a deer gave up their spirits on that day and were taken on board the intruders' pirogues. But all of those of the Virgin Sovereignty heard no prayer of thanksgiving, heard no song to ride the gentle southeastern breeze upriver, where the women were busy with morning duties, where they would have heard game had been taken. How could they have not heard these shots or the prayer and song? Instead, they gathered into their burdened baskets the remnant dried fruit from the shrubs and bushes nearby. They gathered smaller dried kindling along with their trade buckets of water and made their way back to camp. That morning, the breeze held an awful secret. Another day of many losses on the Minnesota. But in the days and years to follow, the indigenous witnesses will fight for the voiceless of nations until the stories from as far away as the Snake River and Columbian will change from those of intruders who came upriver like salmon and took everything, to new stories of the beloved rivers and all their indigenous relatives of the Virgin Sovereignty witnessing return. And there will be new songs to sing, songs of restoration, and maybe forgiveness. When you grow up on a river like the Minnesota, it's embedded in your life forever, and you never forget it. And a mentor of mine, N. Scott Momaday, had this to say about memory. It says, celebrate the past while on a journey for the future. So this poem is called Butterfly Regalia. I welcome small respites on an open air deck, a place of ample maple canopy where its shade from the heat offers light splash of cool breeze in a summer drought, where from my vantage a billowing swell of fluttering butterflies, red dragon swallowtails with their relatives of yellow, blue, black, and tiger, zebra swallowtails too, all dressed for their summer dance. They entice me. They tease me to capture them on my cell phone. But they're wise to me. They rise up as winged carpets of dancers that they are. Up, up into the leafy maple cover overhead, rising up high, far beyond range, and into my disappointment. So I take up my spritzing bottle to mist the hanging baskets when I see a little blue damsel following me, and the spritz of precious water mist from basket of impatience to basket of lobelia. It's fearless with its intent, unfurling its velvety proboscis tube into the misted petals. Perched overhead on the long wind chime shaft, a tiny red-crowned house finch watches with interest at the damsel, the lone flutter-winged, suspended dancer, ever so lightly fanning open its turquoise fringe, dipping and lifting, barely touching delicate droplets of leaves, dancing on wing into my memory on this summer solstice, of a summer solstice on the river that once flowed past dream-colored Wachipi dancers, dancing to beating drums like summer butterflies along a now silent river. Now, there's an exhibit in the museum, the Primordial Shift, and I was asked by the museum staff and director and all to consider sharing Corn Woman's Lodge, a poem that talks about a cultural practice of the Lakota when we make relatives. Now, corn is indigenous to this country, and part of my heritage is Hidatsa, and we know all about corn upriver. So this is Corn Woman's Lodge. The word hunkapi is the making of relatives. Hunkapi is the net to catch shooting stars, to have them shine in the world we know, with or without ceremony. For the covenant of belief lies within our beingness, as all things have their witnesses in the sacred realm and under the sun. Constructs of this net, whether dream desired, planned with feast and celebration, or of life's sudden happenstance, are built on measured love and sacrifice to see the constant covenant rendered true, arcing across the midnight sky. Contracts of this caring covenant, made real by belief and will, are more than currencies of water, more than chanting lyrics, prayerful song, more than rhythmic dance, more than Native Child Welfare Act. It is care and keeping of ancestors. In Corn Woman's Lodge, where she sits on the edge of time, witnessing faithful beingness, tethered to umbilical spirit Hunkapi, where she watches red hands paint 7 faces. She sees each woman standing shoulder to shoulder and honors moon mystery. Corn Woman listens to rattle in hand and witnesses how it awakens the future. She watches how it opens painted seasons, red of renewing, yellow of young saplings, blue of reflecting waters, and snow-covered white of sacred journey. She knows how wand in hand turns the wheel of star people. Corn Woman's Lodge sits on the edge of village circle, where each one who comes and goes becomes a kernel on the necklace she wears around her neck. She knows each by her attention, gently caressing each kernel's dent and fissure. She knows each one's brilliant imperfection. Corn Woman watches 7 sisters traverse the night sky. Hunkapi, making of relatives. One soldier saves another on the battlefield to become brothers. Tribal enemies become brothers to feed their families in the drought that starves many. Newlywed man marries her 2 sisters after his wife, high up in the oldest and tallest, where the largest and plumpest are above and beyond her, foot slips. She falls picking chokecherries. A childless old woman gains a son when she gives a lone young man shelter and comforting wisdom. A childless couple receives their beloved newborn from adolescent mother relative. A married eldest son raises his siblings with his own children when his parents die of influenza. A man's hospital room is filled with relatives and Thanksgiving prayers in preparation for his new heart. Corn Woman watches her lodge filled with relatives, tethered fast to umbilical spirit, Hunkapi. I think one of the things that has inspired me to write, even though I call myself an apprentice poet, is what I see around me. And I've had the wonderful experience of being with writers and thinkers who are of my own culture, and the graceful, welcoming support that came out of Oak Lake Writers, which is now Ochechi Shakoi Writers Society, and the generous help that has been an invitation for me to participate with Dr. Howe's research center. So when we're looking at poetry as a means of remembering what is in our life each day, I thought this one would be a short remembrance of this experience calling Yellow Summer, because we're headed there. As you can see, as you look at the grass out behind you, it's all tinged with yellow. Yellow Summer, wearing dusk's broad yellow hat. Turkey buzzards float under rabbit tail clouds. And we just saw them here when we were listening to Joyce's speech or poem. Fawn slips out into blanket tufted with buffalo grass mat, which holds a singing meadowlark. Golden Sun River willows with teal eggs on feet are wearing downy cottonwood shoes. Leafcutter ants march. Green banners descend, and a warty toad puffs open the earth, his home. These are images that are common among us in the summertime. So I thought that would be one way of letting you drink in some of the things you'll be looking out of your window or at home. Thank you.
All right. Good. So the first 2 days of, I realized I was asked to do a couple things and I haven't done them. So I'll try to catch us a little bit up to speed on these 8 days. So that first day they met the expedition, or we call them in the exhibit the boatmen. They encountered those 3 boys and stayed on the other side of the river, and 4 boys, and 3 of them swam the river to them. And they gave those boys some tobacco and said, take it to your chief and tell him we'd like to visit with him tomorrow. And that chief's name was Buffalo Medicine. And so on that second day, the 24th, the expedition did meet with Buffalo Medicine. And we're going to see Buffalo Medicine a few days. Well, at the very end, we're going to see him again. But that's one name. And we only have 4 names, I think, 3 that I can think of, actually. Lakota named individuals in this from the journalist side, from the boatman side. They only named 3 individuals: Buffalo Medicine, Black Buffalo, and Partisan. And other than that, we don't have the names of anyone on the Lakota side. So after those other intervening days here, we're going to go all the way to the 28th, which was a Friday, the 28th of September 1804. The expedition's just going to try to go upriver. They've had some contentious days from the mainstream viewpoint and from the what we normally read about Lewis and Clark. But if you read the journals, and I hope you all do, or read the text in the exhibit, you'll see that they were feasted for 2 of those days. The Lakotans feasted the expedition and treated them with high honor, carried Lewis and Clark to the feast on a buffalo blanket. They didn't wine and dine them, but they dined them, so they fed them really good. And then they played music and did dancing for them late into the night until like midnight. So it's good to read the whole journals, not just what the famous historians have said how bad the Lakotans were. And then on this day, then the expedition is just trying to leave. They want to get going. and they're having trouble that morning and over the course of that day. This is the 28th of September, and Lori Walsh is the poet, one of the two poets for that day. She'll be here now to read her piece.
This poem has 3 references or footnotes. One is to the scholarship of Dr. Craig Howe, which is unparalleled. 2 is to the poet Doug Anderson, who wrote one of my favorite poems called A Bar in Argos, and that inspired me to do a first-person viewpoint of one of the lowliest foot soldiers on the expedition. And the 3rd reference is to my father, Robert Byers, who is a Vietnam veteran in the Marine Corps, and some of the words that you'll hear in this poem are things that he told me in conversation or that I have found in his letters. Discovery, September 28th, 20 years later. They'll tell you it was an adventure. They'll tell you we were first. I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you the rest. The captain was exhausted, one eye swollen near shut from the murderous mosquitoes and heat staggering on his feet. He had been shaken, too, frightened. And we'd all seen it. He hated that we had seen it. Made us search for that damned anchor we knew we'd never find. Keep searching. A matter of pride, a matter of discipline. And time for him to ruminate further on the nature of keeping wild men under control. The other captain was in one of his funks, weeks now. His mood blackened and contagious. Anything you think is hopeful, that man can heave to the ground. I tell you, he will have a rough time of it if we get back to the world. His kind always does. He'll remember the moonlight cast on the river, the agonizing beauty of it. He'll recall the puma paddling along the shore and the turtles floating past with tiny turtles planted on their backs, blinking at us with liquid eyes. He'll forget the stomach lurching, the sweating and shitting and swearing you'll die like Floyd, and all anyone will do is name a goddamn hill after you. I might have been someone like that too. I might have been a man crying out, "Boy, in my time, I have walked among savages and survived." I might have shouted out in taverns and at dinner parties before the invitations dried up like the bottom of so many glasses, but not after today. We held one of their own today, the son of a chief, and nearly opened a day of slaughter. Nearly quenched the unmentioned thirst for it upon command. You won't read of that, of course. That's the way of these things. The truth is in the story men tell. We raised the white flag and the red. We let them know we were for peace or war. For peace or for war, think of that. No matter, their numbers and their position were far superior. I saw it in his eyes. He clenched the handle of his sword, ready to slice through the bowline, awakened from his torpor and lurching for action. I was ready too. I was ready to fire, slow, steady squeeze, had already identified my first target, already imagined how I would fight through the sting of an arrow in my gut if needed. All the captain had to do was blink and I was set for blood, his and mine, hungry to rip my teeth into the flesh of the fight. The white flag prevailed. The white flag prevailed. But the red flag blossomed in our hearts all the same. You can't be for peace or for war, of course. You have to choose. And you have to choose before the choosing matters. We told them we were clearing a road for peace. We told ourselves we were the good guys. But I know what happens next. I'm not a fool. Don't say I don't know who chose peace. I come from a long line of disposable men. I'm still here, ain't I? I will do one more. This one is called Eulogy for a Possum, slightly lighter. and published in the spring issue of Pask Petals, which is the South Dakota Poetry Journal. Eulogy for a Possum. Curled up, unbloodied, you have died on the side of the road, and you appear to have passed peacefully. Gray fur ruffling in the spring breeze, pale pink tail caught mid-unfurling. How I long to carry your body home, lift you gently, drape you softly on the front seat of my car, offer the cool black soil of my backyard as your final resting place. I want to do this before some passerby laughs at you, or cringes with wrinkled nose, or slices off your tail, or shovels you into a black plastic leaf bag while commenting on your heft as you are heaved into a pile of waiting garbage. You, my friend, do not belong with the discarded. You, my friend, belong among the beloved, among the quiet and thoughtful ones. You belong among the ones who hiss, but only when hissing is required. The baby carriers, the night watchers, the tender lumberers. I have no explanation for your death, just as I have no prediction for my own. I only stand here hoping that you are merely playing, that you will shed this version of yourself the moment I turn my gaze from your still form. I walk away and wonder, if I glance back at you now, would I collapse, a pillar of salt shattering into freshly seasoned earth? Or would I see you trundling into the brambles, chortling at my insistence on the resurrection?
All right, excellent. So that was the 28th of September, and on the 30th was 8 days from the 23rd is when Lewis and Clark started interacting with Lakotans. And so on the 30th, still on the keelboat was buffalo medicine. And so at the end of the day, they had to decide what they were going to do with him, and that's how the exhibition ends. But so now coming up is Tracy Hauff, and she'll read her poem.
On Petu Wash Day, Tracy Hauff Imichiapie, Oglala na Itazipcho na Wajaje, Lakota Oyate. My name is Tracy Hauff. I'm a member of the Oglala Lakota tribe in Wajaje and Itazipcho. I wrote this poem in using a non-human narrator, and there's a word for that, and it's a 6-syllable word, and for some reason, my tongue twists around that word every time I try to say it. I can say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious easier than I can say anthromo. See, I can't say it. But anyway, it's assigning human characteristics to a non-human entity. And I thought it was appropriate that the narrator of this poem should be the Missouri River. Mini Shoshe. Mini water, Shoshe, stir up mud. And that's why sometimes you'll hear the Missouri River referred to as the Big Muddy. So let's hear what Mini Shoshe has to say about that day with Lewis and Clark. I carried these men from St. Louis to the tribal lands of the Titonwan. Some days I allowed them to maneuver in peace. Other days I rammed the boat, creating turbulence that makes them labor and curse. Addicted to dominance, they despise defiance, obsessed with the need to conquer and control man, beast, land, and water. The Lakota Oyate would never curse me, no matter how unruly I become. They frolic among gentle waves that wash dust from bronzed flesh, listen at night to the crescendo of white caps slapping the muddy shore, and defer to the currents that push silt north to south and transport these men south to north. These men intrude with a sense of entitlement, setting a precedent for manifest destiny. Convinced that their ideologies and intelligence are far superior to the indigenous people, they take copious notes about the environment without seeking generational knowledge and wisdom from the current inhabitants. I carry these men into symbiotic Lakota country, and I feel ashamed, complicit in a certain inevitable obliteration, and the thought nags at me like a tree snagged upon a sandbar that I cannot shake loose. When the boat rounds the bend, I see the Oglala approach. Excited and curious, skeptical and dubious, they do not suspect me of betrayal. "Come, we feast and smoke," they shout. But these men decline the invitation because the Sichongu tribe has wounded their overinflated egos, and the trespassers retaliate by distorting their encounters with the Lakotans. Troublesome Tetons, villainous savages, pirates of the Missouri are lies they scribble in their journals. These men have taken Buffalo Medicine hostage to ensure they get past the Oglala. Suddenly, the river bottom grabs the stern. I call on Waukea to blow, and the thunder beams create a tempest that rocks the keelboat. Buffalo Medicine cries out, "I want off! I want to go back to my people!" And they set him free as they depart Titonwan Territory. These men I carry will be praised, honored, and immortalized. The genocide of Lakota will continue for the next 200 years and beyond. And the cohesive relationship I enjoy with the Oyate will be plagued by greed and destruction in the name of progress. I, Minnie Shoshe, deeply regret carrying these men, Lewis and Clark, the core of discovery. This next poem is written from a very human viewpoint, very emotional. It's by a Lakota leader who is trying to decide if he should touch the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. And some of the chiefs were eager to sign the treaty because they foresaw the future. They knew that what was coming was something that they could not stop. Some of them did not want to sign it, and Chief Red Cloud was one of the last ones to sign the treaty. But it was not an easy decision for any of them to make, something that they agonized over. Touch the pen. I will sit with you and listen, nod when I agree, murmur with disapproval when Iktomi I can see. I have guided my people through soft times and hard. Sorrow stabs my breast when I hear fear in their voices. They know, as do I, it is time for difficult choices. My people are the reason I meet with you this day. It is for them I traveled south to hear greased words slip easily from your mouth. I attend, I watch, I pray. The pen must wait another day. I sat with my people and met with you before, the year of the great giveaway at Horse Creek, when 10,000 gathered to hear you speak, promising we could keep prairies of Timpsala and Chokecherry, from the shining mountains to Minishoshe, from Shell Creek to Hart. A treaty was written because white men crossed our land, tearing it apart. Wagons slashed Mother Earth, dreadful wounds that did not heal. To bring that ruin to an end, to stop the turning of the wheels, I watched that day as they touched the pen. But this is now, and that was then. I see your lips moving, strange noises spewing forth, trespassing upon a stronger sound wedged between my ears, the weeping of babies who cannot drink their mother's tears. The old ones stoop, bent like cottonwoods about to topple. The young scatter from the rumbling of cavalry riding fast. This ongoing battle seems to last and last. I see you in my dreams in your blue coats, medals, and pins. But as the sun climbs high, it is the children with scrawny limbs and shrunken bellies that stand before me until the daylight dims. To help the generations to come, I know I must touch the pen.
Leaving our villages behind, our food and all we own, with moccasins worn, clothing torn, we flee. Through wind and ice we run, desperately seeking safety. Our needs are quite simple, but one thing I do ask. Stop trying to wipe us out in wars that are unfair. We are Lakota, the sun, the moon, the stars, the air. This new way you want for us is not the one we choose for our sons and daughters and their daughters and sons. Our beautiful culture must not be undone. For this, for them, soon, I will touch the pen. All we require is our land to live happy. To hunt and roam. My heart is hesitant and its days for beating are short. I do not want the Lakota as beggars around the fort. Our brave warriors resist. They want to fight to save our way of life. Indecision grates like gravel in my head. If I don't do this now, how long before we all are dead? This is for the children, the women, the hungry, the weak. We have asked you to stop coming. Stay in your territory back east. We have tried in all the ways we know, not giving up in the least. But still, you come, as steady as the beat of a drum. Do not think that this is an easy thing for me to do, that I sleep well at night without tossing, for I do not. When the stars light, I wake and remember battles fought. The Great Spirit whispers to me in the inky dark of night, Tatanka is leaving you. They go, they go, they go. Provider, giver of life, the sacred buffalo. The Great Spirit guides me. I pray, I fast. He tells me that this is the road we must travel now. I argue with him for hours on end, worry creasing my brow. Tomorrow we gather again to pass the pen from hand to hand. The Great White Father waits for my X upon his paper, and this is what I, a Lakota leader, understand. We keep our hunting grounds. This is what we demand. We will accept money, food, and clothing as offered. Educate our children in schools built by white man's hand. Of greater importance, we will keep our land. We will strive for peace with white man and crow, pick up tools to farm and cease making war. This treaty will take the place of any written before. I am ready. I consent. I scratch my X. I touch the pen. I haven't read that in several years, so it was kind of emotional for me. That's it.